I make no secret of the fact that my favorite show growing up was Codename Kids Next Door. What I've frequently done on my channel is talked about why I like a particular thing, whether that's a person's work or a show. I wanted to talk about why I like Codename Kids Next Door. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. What I liked about it as a kid, what do I still respect and love about it. As a kid, I can safely say a lot of really small stuff. I didn't think too deeply about things, but a lot of Codename Kids Next Door seemed tailor-made for me. Not that it was, because it appealed to a lot of people, and thank God for that. We got that 6 seasons in a movie. I was super obsessed with it pretty much from the get-go. I like tree houses. Always liked tree houses. They lived in a tree house. And this one was so big and so bombastic, I wanted to live in that tree house. I also really liked that the main group, they all had different nationalities. They all had different backgrounds, as do I. So that was very appealing. I also like the kids versus adults theme. You know, as a kid, you don't have a ton of power, you fight adults. It wasn't treated like a war story, though. Even back then, even if I watched war stories, I was never as into them. Kids Next Door, it was something you could get behind. I love the cause of protecting childhood. I was always really, really into that. Yeah, ignore the madness going on outside. I always really, really liked that. Protecting childhood, I was one of those kids who didn't want to grow up. And shows like Codename Kids Next Door really helped me appreciate childhood, because you do feel very powerless. This was really, really fun. This was a cause you could get behind, but at the same time, it wasn't too serious. It didn't take itself too seriously. A lot of people still criticized it. A lot of people criticized the concept even back then. I never took it too seriously. I think some pearl clutchers did. Probably still do. That was that. I enjoyed that, and it was also a way I learned about a lot of classic movies, and the references were obvious enough that I could pick up on it. No, it was always cool to catch that and be in on it. That being said, there's still a ton of heart and creativity to it. Thinking about it as an adult, yes, now that I like to think I've escaped my decommissioning, but I don't think I'd be that cool. So, keeping these memories. Keep the memories alive, damn it. Also, I did not like the idea of a plunger being on your face. That is disgusting. Hopefully they used clean ones for the decommissioning chamber. Keep digressing. But thinking about it more deeply as an adult, I really, really liked, essentially the friendship of the main characters, I really, really like. I like that they don't do a lot of this best friends forever stuff. They are there for each other, but at the same time, it has that sitcom dynamic of they will get on each other's nerves. They will get angry at each other. They will upset each other. They will clash. But they're there for each other. And you know that 100% of the time, these characters like each other. The chemistry comes out. The writing's very good. They feel very, you know that they could easily be character types, but at the same time, there is enough. They are fleshed out. They do have their own unique quirks, and they do have their own unique personalities. So even if you've seen the tough guy before, number 4 is still very, very distinctive. And even if you've seen, you know, the cute, happy, bubbly girl, that's been done a lot, but at the same time, number 3 still feels very distinctive. And even though the characters have a similar body type, the body language is always very, very distinct. There's so much personality, and there's a variety of personality that comes out in these characters. I really like that you can follow a character individually. They're not just a team the whole time. I really, really like that the kids next door are essentially individuals. They can go on a mission by themselves, or they can partner up with 1 or 2 other members, or they can just be a whole team. And for the most part, obviously, I probably would have done this more at 10, but I have not counted every episode to see who gets the most individual time. They do get their fair share of moments to shine, and they get their own individual styles of stories. You know, number 2 got a lot of detective stories. Number 5 was a child Indiana Jones, and because I had a sweet tooth, obviously, I liked her the most. So, yeah, fun. Also, the artwork's very, very distinctive. I like that it's beautiful, but it's also quirky, this art style. You know, very similar to Fido Dido and Pepper Ann. Tom Warburton was the character designer of Pepper Ann, so you don't need to quote that fun fact at me. It is a fun fact. It is fun. Yeah, that's fun. I know it, though. Pretentiousness is gonna come out during this video. I lost my train of thought, but I'm gonna continue talking about Kids Next Door anyway. Kind of funny how the Kids Next Door, they were all individuals, but they were also a really close team. And it's interesting that their foil was the Delightful Children, who were this conformist hive mind who collect toenails, which is utterly disgusting. The show got really freaking gross sometimes, and even the creators have acknowledged that. I don't think I will ever forget that. Oh yeah, Operation Pink Eye as well. I refuse to eat apple crumble to this very day. Yeah. But overall, I definitely appreciated that, even back then, that there was a ton of heart in this show. In an era where it was really cool not to care about things, and for some weird reason, I still don't understand why that was a thing. There was a lot of heart to this, and people, these characters were friends, and they felt like they had a genuine connection, and there was clearly a lot of energy and passion put into the show behind the scenes. And even if there are some things about it that didn't age well, you know, not everything does, the foundation of it is still good, and an overwhelming majority of it is still watchable, and still really likable, and still really creative. I actually would be very, very curious. I know they were trying to do Galactic Kids Next Door, and I did see the pilot for that. I would be very, very curious. I was wondering, even thinking about, what would Kids Next Door be like if it came out today? I would be so curious. There's a lot of annoying people outside revving their engines. I mean, good lord, what the heck? Yeah, I do think about what would Kids Next Door be like if it came out today. I definitely think certain details would be aligned. I think the technology, the 2x4 technology would still be a thing. I think some of the day-to-day technology would have been updated. I think there would be less gross-out humor, less 90s angst. It would still have this big, bombastic, epic feel. I think the vast majority of it would be the same, but there would be details that would be more aligned with what's going on today. I think there would be more open LGBT characters. I think there would be a little more... You'd probably see more fleshed out versions of the rest of the world. You know, the different sectors. I think there'd be a little more thought put into some of that. But the characters are still solid, and I could see any of those characters essentially still working today. They're good characters then, they're still good characters now. The foundation is still great. I don't know if kids are actually watching it right now. I'd be curious. I know a lot of people my age remember the show very, very fondly. And love to talk about the fun facts, the different parts of the show that you were drawn to, and favorite episodes. I will say, it's always fun to think about. Thoughts on Galactic Kids Next Door. While it is cool, it still has that same epic feel. I actually like the episodic nature of it. I like that there was a mix between, there was some continuity, and there were episodes building up to things. There was definitely always a building momentum, but at the same time, it didn't feel like every episode was a chapter that you just had to watch in order to get to the next one. I like that mix. Episodic, just the storytelling structure is one I really get behind. Episodic, but at the same time, there is a progression, and they were building up to something. I like the epic feel of the show. I really like the sense of imagination. It was very pro-imagination, very pro-energy, very pro, appreciating what you have, appreciating your childhood, because it's not going to be there forever. You know, times change, you eventually do grow up. So, enjoy every phase of life while you can. I thought this was the show that really got me thinking about that. Again, so much of it felt tailor-made for me specifically. Also, I like stuff that's very high energy, very passionate, epic, angsty, all that fun stuff. I think even as a kid I was picking up on some of that stuff, but couldn't quite put it into words, couldn't quite articulate it the way I can now. I don't know if I'd still want to live in a treehouse, but that treehouse was awesome. I wouldn't mind some of those. I wouldn't mind some of the 2x4 technology either. There's certainly a few people I wouldn't mind hitting in the face with a splanker. Overall, though, I'm heavily biased. I have the nostalgia goggles for it, but even then, it still has a lot of stuff that I really, really like in animation, in storytelling. I like its energy. I like its quirkiness. Again, it's beautiful and also quirky. It's very distinctive. A lot of heart. Again, I really like the way they handle character relationships. I also like... I know a lot of shows, movies, books, media, shows kids who don't get along with their siblings, and that's something I certainly related to and understood very well. That's most of what I saw around me too. I thought they captured different versions of that pretty well, how very much the sitcom way, the sitcom tone of, hey, you may get annoyed with somebody and you're very close to someone, you can get on each other's nerves, but you're going to be there for each other, and that feels, there's an honesty to that, versus a lot of the best friends forever stuff that feels very performative, and, you know, actions speak louder than words. Sometimes people say things a lot, but that doesn't mean they're doing it, and I like that the relationships of the show, they didn't have to say, oh, we're family, we're family, we're family. They just did it. And I thought that was great. They didn't have to, they had their tribe, but at the same time, they weren't bound to it. And again, just fun stuff. Really, really fun, creative, inventive stories. They had an explosion of creativity in this show, and they had all these really cool backgrounds and worlds. You really got to travel to someplace cool every single week. You had this big, epic, fantastical craziness every week, and that's something I appreciate. A good mix of the crazy, the fun, also the heart. I know I repeat myself a lot. Maybe I'm watching too much Angela Anaconda, but I like that show too, so this was a fun rant. I still, to this day, have such a soft spot for Codename Kids Next Door. It has stayed with me for a very, very long time, and it's not going to be going away anytime soon. Yeah. End transmission.